Yes, I can see it now.
Yeah, okay. Wait. Yeah, okay. My paper title is The Sacred Meanings of Yearly Dreadlock Haircut Ritual as a Blessing Expectation for Ding Plateau Society. Well, the table of content, there are background of the research and then method of research approach, method of data collection, and then the third is discussion. Well, and then the last is conclusion, yeah. Okay, background of the research. Java is the most densely populous island in Indonesia with the largest number of Muslim majority believer. Javanese people have distinguished religious landscape and very traditional rituals. A great deal of ethnic Javanese people lives in rural villages and conduct various sacral, traditional religious and ritual practices in the countryside as their cultural identity. Javanese ritual practices have brought up the underlying concept of understanding about traditional culture, Islam, syncretism, or the combinations of culture and religion and ritual meaning. To understand religious variation and various Javanese rituals, a person has to understand the history of religion of Javanese people. Javanese society is culturally the mixture of Hindu, Buddhist, and indigenous Javanese belief. Referring to the history, a lot of Javanese people up to this present time have differed between first, practitioners of a syncretic Javanese traditional and ritual consisting of local folk beliefs, Islam, and Javanese mythology. Second, practitioners of Islamic teaching, values, and ritual as part of their cultural heritage. In relation to Javanese rituals, Ruatan is the most best known and the most important of all rituals, which mean a sacred ritual to free, to release, and to salvage someone from any evil spirit. One of the well-known Ruatan ritual is dreadlock haircut ritual that has been culturally conducted by Dieng Plateau Society. The Javanese ritual of dreadlock haircut Ruatan is culturally conducted to cut dreadlock hair of teen children in the glorified first month of Arabic calendar. It is based on local people's belief and carried out to set free children from luck's disaster and danger threat in the future. This kind of ritual is very unique since the object of Ruatan ritual is seeing children with long dreadlock hair, which are believed to take along with certain weakness or sukerto. Dreadlock means rambut gimbal. Dreadlock haircut ritual is not merely a ritual with children as an object, but also a communication medium for the local society to pray for a blessing expectation from God for life, happiness, and prosperity. The researchers have also found the various sacred meaning of dreadlock haircut ritual in terms of psychological, social, cultural perspective, Sukarto children ritual procession, ritual attributes, and salvation ritual. Method of research. Research approach. The sacred meaning of yearly dreadlock haircut ritual as a blessing expectation for the Plateau society is researched by making good use of the blended ethic and emic research approach. Ethic approach of culture is the kind of cultural research approach that emphasizes on cultural description and perception based on the outside community. While emic approach of culture is the cultural research approach which emphasizes on cultural description and perception based on the people's view from the inside local culture community. This cultural research also uses the qualitative descriptive research, that is the research which is conducted by means of describing, discovering, and explaining any facts, condition, and phenomena of dreadlock haircut ritual in the society. The researchers analyze and elaborate the data of the sacred Javanese traditional ritual, which is closely related to the factual ritual practice and procession in Dieng Plateau society, as well as the way of thinking and perception of local community on dreadlock haircut ritual. The second method is data collection, survey method by directly visiting the object of the locations of the Dieng Plateau society. The research conduct and adopt sample of research such as the traditional ritual practitioners, the elderly figures around the ritual tradition, and the previous dreadlock hair children. The second is questionnaire form by interviewing directly with several respondents of local people around Dieng Plateau. And the last is library research. The researcher attempt to collect the related data of the research object as many as possible through website on internet, YouTube streaming, book, journal, and any other sources. While the discussion first is the sacred meaning in psychological, social, cultural perspective. The dreadlock haircut ritual for Dieng children has been culturally rooted in Dieng Plateau society life carried out every early year of Arabic calendar. The ritual has a sacred meaning in psychological perspective. That is a psychological cleansing process from any negative self-image constructions that the children and the practitioners of ritual have in mind. If the self-construction is occupied with something negative, something bad, and anything bad will befall him or her psychologically. Referring to the amic approach of the cultural phenomenon in Dieng, the yearly deadlock haircut ritual psychologically get rid of someone, children, and Dieng Plateau society from restlessness and unpleasantness to peacefulness and happiness. For those who belong to the sacred ritual of dreadlock haircut will certainly feel uneasy and guilty if they do not get involved with the ritual or do not carry out the ritual for their dreadlock haired children. This will lead them to the spirit separated away from ritual communities psychologically. Based on the, Based on the ethic approach of culture, I cannot see, wait, got to track. Okay. Based on the ethic approach of cultural phenomenon analysis, the yearly deadlock haircut ritual has also a deeper sacred meaning in social perspective that is reinforcing and strengthening social relationship among Dieng Plateau society, either children, teenagers, adult, elder people, or other visitors who come to follow the ritual. This social phenomenon can be viewed around the complex of Arjuna Temple, Dieng. Such a crowded ritual indicates social solidarity and togetherness of a strong relationship among the practitioners and visitors of the ritual. This ritual causes to emerge a collective awareness to give social charity for the poor people, the orphan, the social facilities, and so on. The essential teaching of dreadlock haircut ruatan ritual is to get closer to God by sincerely praying for a blessing expectations to Him as the best giver of grace, love, and fortune, and to establish a better social relationship by giving charity to other people. Referring to the ethic approach of cultural phenomena analysis, this dreadlock haircut ritual has a sacred meaning in cultural perspective for Dieng Plateau society. It is a symbolic cultural identity because it only exists in Dieng. Besides that, it is a sacral ceremony which has been lasting for 100 years ago and has been performed by a certain group of people in Dieng Plateau society for certain purposes, with certain forms and pattern, in certain time, using certain things, and to acquire certain things from the unseen. The second is the sacred meaning of Sukato children with dreadlock hair. Dieng Plateau society has a sacral belief that the dreadlock hair ritual is carried out for Dieng children to salvage them from Sukarta, which means dearth, weakness, or bad luck of dreadlock-haired children. If it is not ritualized, Sukarta will affect on children's life in the future. Sukarta in Javanese belief can be attached within humans as well as physical environments. To drive Sukarta away, it needs a ruatan ritual or an exorcising ritual, such as dreadlock haircut ritual. Otherwise, Sukarta children will face misfortune, calamity, danger in the upcoming days. Meanwhile, Sukarta environment cover plantation, rice field, forest, house yard, and so forth, which are directly related to humans' life. In connection with ritual of Sukarta children, dreadlock-haired children are regarded as bad luck takers. The researchers analyze such phenomena critically that the negative stereotype and assumptions of dreadlock-haired children perhaps comes from dirty, smelly hair. As a result of this, the children will face many health problems, bad smell of the hair, or terrible outward appearance. The third sacred meaning of dreadlock hair ritual procession. In line with the ethic approach of the cultural phenomena in Dieng, the ritual process begins with the dreadlock hair children aggregation in the house of the elderly figure of local custom Dieng Batur, Banjarnegara, Central Java.
Ibu Adrina, you have 1 minute left. Thank you.
The age of ritual children to be varies ranging from 3 to 15 years old, and they wear Japanese white kebaya clothes and batik underclothes. The children are paraded to go around the kampung. They are sacredly taken a bath with holy prayer water by the elderly figures of the local community. The next stage of the ritual procession of children are taken along in the surrounding yard of Arjuna Temple complex. After Javanese songs and Islamic prayer accompanying the ritual have been sung and said, the processions of deadlock haircut ritual is solemnly carried out to be led by the elderly figure of the Plateau society. This time, the dreadlock haircut ritual is not a mere secular ritual, but also a part of cultural tourism agenda conducted every year in the Cultural Festival. The sacred meaning of the reason behind the dreadlock children having to be ritualized is closely related to the dirty conditions of children that will give a big impact on their health and fortune in the future. With the emic approach of the cultural phenomenon in India, the sacred meaning of the elder figures saying is related to life problems and how to overcome the problems, which mean identifying bad things to keep away immediately and good things to do sincerely. Sacred meaning dreadlock haircut ritual attributes. There are 3 symbolic meanings: sesajen, and then Javanese white kabaya, and large paper umbrella. Sesajen means a various serving of food and fruits, has separate meaning as God-given grace to whom humans have expressed the deepest gratitude by means of committing God's instructions and avoiding God's prohibition in everyday life. While Japanese white kabaya means that we have to remember that the day, not only the day they will die by only wearing white clothes, but white kabaya also has separate meaning that living life should firstly begin with pure acceptance and be based on clean soul and white kabaya with no stains. And large paper made umbrella would have a sacred meaning as life protections that protects parents protect the children, teacher protect their student, leaders should protect their followers, and the elder people should protect the younger, and so forth. Well, the last is haircut. Dreadlock haircut as salvation ritual. The majority of the Plateau society believe that conducting the dreadlock haircut ritual is a salvation ritual of evicting the bad luck away from themselves and being replaced with good luck and serenity. The dreadlock haircut ritual is said to be a salvation ritual not only affecting on children, but also having impact on parents, neighbors, and the Plateau society in general. And the conclusion is the Japanese dreadlock haircut ritual is culturally conducted to cut dreadlock hair of the children in the Holy Surah, the first month of Arabic calendar. In relation to the emic and ethic approach of the cultural phenomenon in Dieng, the sacral ritual has been long preserved because the Plateau society believed that dreadlock haircut ritual is functions to primarily evict away bad luck, calamity, and life uncertainty for the children, especially when they grow up, as well as a blessing expectation for local people's life, prosperity, and happiness. Well, the yearly dreadlock haircut ritual, as a matter of fact, has various separate meaning in terms of psychological, social, cultural perspective, Sukato children, ritual procession, ritual attributes, and salvation ritual for the Plateau native community. Well, that's the references, and thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Ibu Adrinawati, for the very interesting topic. Yeah. Okay, so I would like to open the Q&A sessions. Is there any question from the audience? Maybe we still have 1 or 2 questions. You can raise your hand or just unmute your microphone.
I have 1 question if I'm allowed. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Ms. Suketna.
Thanks a lot, Bu Adrinawati, for your presentation. I learned a lot from your slides. You mentioned that the dreadlock cut also means strengthening social relationship among members of the society. Does it mean if a child with dreadlock hair doesn't have this kind of ritual, will it affect the social fabric of the society, or what is the impact to the community? Thanks very much.
Wait a minute, I cannot see it. Yeah, okay, thank you. You mean that the impact to the people there is what you mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they believe that the impact can be a kind of like a disaster, or well, something bad happened to the kids or to their situation. And it is not only for the people, but also for the environment.
Okay, is it enough, or you still have confirmation or question to Ibu Atrinawati?
So I wonder if the COVID situation at the moment somehow related to this kind of cultural phenomenon, and maybe we need ruatan in a large scale.
Yeah, of course, yes.
Yeah,
Thanks, Ibu.
okay. Thank you, Ibu Retna Hanani, for the questions. And I believe that there's still a lot of questions, but unfortunately the time is up. So thank you, Ibu Atrinawati. I believe you are my lecturer 20 years ago, and you're still beautiful as the way you are. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Atrinawati, and we will move to the next presenter. The next one is 1783 thematic village in Semarang between hope and struggle to maintain it by Ibu Titi Suliati. Okay, Ibu Titi, are you there? Okay, yeah. So similar with the previous presenters, you have 10 minutes for the presentation and 5 minutes for the discussions. The time is yours. Ibu Titi, your microphone is still in the mute mode. Can you unmute the microphone, or maybe the host can help Ibu Titi to unmute the microphone?
I'm sorry. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, it's clear. I'm to present my paper on title Thematic Kampung in Semarang between hope and struggle to maintain it. I changed my title, village. I changed with kampung because kampung is different, different from a village. Okay. The table of contents. This article covers introduction, research area, methodology, background of emergence of thematic kampungs and their current conditions, expectation and effort to maintain thematic kampung in Semarang, and conclusion. Okay, my title is Thematic Kampung in Semarang between hope and struggle to maintain it. Introduction. From the beginning, the ancient kampungs in Semarang contain thematic elements. Kampungs contain elements of ethnicity. Example, Kampung Melayu, Kampung Kauman, Kampung Pekojan, Pecinan, etc. The name of kampung are based on the work done by the residents of kampung. Example, Kampung Batik, Kampung Sayangan, Kampung Kulitan, etc. Name of kampung are based on the unique geographical conditions. Example, Kampung Lemah Gempal, Kampung Cigar Bencah, Kampung Kali Garang, etc. The thematic elements in ancient kampungs in Semarang are different from the thematic kampungs that are formed today. Some of the differences are the ancient kampung grew organically, independently, without planning. The thematic kampungs programmed by the Semarang city government had a tendency to follow what had been planned and implemented by the city government, so it often did not pay attention to the internal potential of the kampungs, both natural resources and human resources. It is different that cause of has been programmed by the Semarang city government from 2019 to 2021. The results have not been encouraging. There are many things that need to be studied in depth related to the formation of thematic kampungs, so that the program planned by the Semarang city government with funds of this size is successful. This is a study area. Yeah. The geographic location and environment of Semarang thematic kampung under study were the thematic kampung which was successful and the thematic kampung where was less successful. Thematic kampung that were successful were Kampung Jamu in Wonolopo village, Mijen district, Kampung Pelangi in Randusari village, South Semarang district, Kampung Bati in Rejomulyo village, East Semarang district, Kampung Alamalon in Gunung Pati village, Gunung Pati district, Kampung Nasi Ayam in Panggung Kidul village, district North Semarang. The less successful thematic kampungs were Kampung Jahi in Peleburan village, South Semarang sub-district, Kampung Sukun Chips in Peterongan village, South Semarang sub-district, Kampung Hidroponik to Tanjung Mas village, North Semarang district, Kampung Tempe Kresmen in Padang Sari village, Banyumanik district, Kampung Susu Sapi Perah in the Gedawang village, Banyumanik district. The method used in this research is descriptive. The method used in this research is descriptive qualitative method. Qualitative methods are used because the study seeks to reveal social problems written in detail. Descriptive method is used to help the writer to describe factually the relationship between the instruments to study. The result of the analysis are described in a detailed arrangement of word and language based on scientific principles or by utilizing various scientific methods. Source of data in this study were obtained from books, articles, and the result of research about process of formation, development, and problems in the defense of the thematic kampung in Semarang. Data was obtained through interviews, field notes, photos, personal documents, data collection, observation in the field, and in-depth interviews. Background of emergence to thematic kampung and their current conditions. In 2016, the mayor of Semarang, Hendrar Prihadi, made new breakthrough. No. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah, BRICS. In 2016, the mayor of Semarang Hendrar Priyadi made a new Brickton arrangement of the Kampung of Semarang, namely the thematic Kampung program. The Semarang city government launched this thematic Kampung program with the aim of reducing poverty and unemployment, improving the quality of the residential environment, raising local wisdom in managing potential. I'm sorry. Improving the quality of the residential environment, raising local wisdom and managing potential and solving environmental problems, adding tourist destination. The purpose of making thematic kampung is to move the economy in the lower layers that can stimulate economic growth and alleviate poverty in the city of Semarang. At the beginning of this implementation, the thematic kampung program was implemented in 32 villages out of 1,077 urban villages in Semarang. Since the thematic kampung program was implemented in 2016 to 2019, of the 209 thematic kampungs that were formed, only 28 thematic kampungs were in the good of developing rankings. 131 thematic kampung were in the middle or ordinary rankings, and 50 thematic kampung were in the underdeveloped rank. Thematic kampung that were successful were Kampung Jamu, Kampung Pelangi, Kampung Batik, Kampung Alam Alon, Kampung Nasi Ayam. Several thematic kampungs that fall into the unsuccessful category are Kampung Jahe, Kampung Sukun Chips, Kampung Hidroponik, Kampung Tempe Krispen, Kampung Susu Perah. The condition of some of the thematic kampungs that are less successful are those in mediocre condition. Expectation and effort to maintain thematic kampung in Semarang. The thematic kampungs program in Semarang that have been running are basically the needs and condition of the kampung community. The different approach between top-down and bottom-up in the implementation of thematic kampungs is one of the cause of the failure of thematic kampung in Semarang. For kampung whose population are very heterogeneous in the field of economy, education, and culture, mobilizing community participation are very difficult and takes a long time. On the other hand, if the people of kampung are very homogeneous, it is easy to encourage community participation. There are many reasons why the number of successful thematic is very minimal, only around 13.40%. Some of the obstacles in realizing a successful thematic include there are still regional stakeholders who do not understand the spirit of thematic kampung, whose main objective is to fix the slum kampung, while at the same time utilizing the local potential of the kampung. Many kampungs have forced themselves to take part in the kampung thematic program. Community empowerment is not optimal.
Ibu Titi,
of
1 minute left. One minute left. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The success of thematic kampung are supported by factors communication The community must understand the benefit that will be generated by the existence of the Kampung thematic program, so that community participation is easy to implement. The expected change is an increase in community welfare, namely the ability to community to meet their daily needs, starting from income, education, health, and housing. Socialization about the thematic program that is less focused and unsustainable, unclear, and inconsistent direction from stakeholders. The mismatch between environmental potential and the thematic kampung program that will be developed. Okay. Conclusion. The development of thematic kampungs in Semarang still requires effort from the Semarang city government, stakeholders, and the community. Seeing the development of thematic kampungs that have been proclaimed by the Semarang city government since 2016, the result achievement have not met expectation, because in 2019 it was recorded that out of 209 thematic kampungs form, only 13.40% were included in good category, medium or ordinary category, 62.68%, and categories do not develop or fail, 23.93%. The failure of thematic kampung in achieving the goals programmed by the city government is caused by several factors that have not been implemented optimally, such as communication, socialization, community participation, financial support, and fostering of city government officials and other stakeholders. On the other hand, the success of thematic kampungs are supported by several factors, including communication and program dissemination that is detailed and understood by all policy makers and the community. What is very important, the social capital of the community, namely participation, solidarity, and intensive cooperation. Okay, thank you for your attention. Good afternoon. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you very much, Ibu Titik Suliati, for the presentation. And I will open the Q&A sessions. Is there any question from the audience?
Okay,
Okay, Ibu Endah Srihartati, right? Okay.
Mrs. Titik Suliati,
Okay,
thematic kampung in Semarang, what the identity area of local wisdom, Bu?
I'm sorry. May you present your question in bahasa Indonesia, because my English not good. Okay, I'm sorry, Bu Indah. Mrs. Novi, I'm sorry. Yeah.
It's okay, Ibu Titi. So, pertanyaan Ibu Endah tadi menyatakan apakah tematik kampung itu hampir sama seperti apa ya?
Identitas dari lokal
gitu ya,
ya,
lokal budaya,
lokal. Apakah itu sebagai sebuah lokal identitas budaya?
Oke, lokal wisdom ya. Memang benar. Jadi sebelum ada program pemerintah mengenai kampung tematik, setiap kampung itu sudah punya kearifan lokal masing-masing, baik budaya, mungkin di bidang sosial, ya. Jadi kayak komunitas masyarakat yang unik, kemudian pekerjaan-pekerjaan, sumber daya alam yang unik juga. Nah, ini pemerintah Pak Hendrar Prihadi, Wali Kota Semarang itu sejak 2016 ingin lebih memfokuskan menggali potensi dari masing-masing kampung ini. Jadi itu supaya lebih terarah, teratur, dan bisa dikoordinasikan. Jadi untuk meningkatkan perekonomian masyarakat, kemudian juga untuk pembenahan kampung supaya tidak lagi kampung itu sebagai tempat yang kumuh, kemudian juga kalau bisa untuk destinasi wisata. Seperti itu Bu Enda. Memang benar, masing-masing kampung sudah punya potensi. Jadi kita bisa lihat kalau kampung yang punya potensi sejak awal itu sering berhasil ya ketika ada program pemerintah ini. Dibandingkan dengan kampung yang tidak punya potensi, misalnya kampung jahe. Itu di peleburan itu memang di sana itu hanya ada segelintir atau orang masyarakat begitu warga yang menanam jahe dan seperti subur. Baru kemudian ketua RT-nya itu punya inisiatif untuk bagaimana kalau di daerah itu ditanami jahe. Padahal itu tidak semua bisa ditanami jahe. Jadi lahan di peleburan itu tidak semuanya bisa cocok untuk jahe. Kemudian juga masyarakat tidak punya atensi yang sama. Jadi untuk partisipasi masyarakat itu kurang. Juga dengan kampung hidroponik itu gagal karena di wilayah Semarang Utara itu masyarakatnya kan masyarakat nelayan. Jadi dia tidak untuk menyerap teknologi baru tanaman hidroponik itu dia belum familiar, jadi tidak berhasil. Jadi ini kebijakan-kebijakan yang di mana kalau itu tidak tumbuh dari masyarakat itu gagal, ya banyak mengalami kegagalan. Begitu saya kira Bu Indah. Terima kasih atas pertanyaannya.
Thank you Bu Titi.
Ya, terima kasih. Ya.
Thank you Ibu Titi. There is expatriate here, right? So I don't have to translate the answer of Ibu Titi. But to sum up, I think the local identity is still a unique potential from every kampung. So when it supported by government and the society, it will be grow more and more, I think. Thank you, Ibu Titi, for the presentation and the discussion.
You're welcome.
Please still stay here because we will take a picture together, and don't forget to fill the absence, the presence link in the chat room. Jangan lupa isi absen Ibu Titi ada di kolom chat.
Thank you.
Okay, then we will move to the third presenter. 1784, maintaining Javanese culture by utilizing the abundant local natural resources for traditional cuisine to promote Tegal City culinary tourism by Ibu Atrinawati. Okay. Is that right? Your microphone is still in the mute mode.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Mbak Novi. Yeah.
Thank you, Ibu. The time is yours.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Can you see the paper?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you for the opportunity. This is my I thank you for time. Well, this is my second opportunity. Well, yeah, wait, it's pictures should be dragged. Yeah, okay. Well, the topic is quite different with my first topic. It's about culinary. Actually, I've already changed the title, but I don't know. It's still my old title, yeah. Well, Javanese culture maintenance by utilizing natural resources for traditional cuisine to promote the city culinary tourism. Well, the introduction is utilizing local natural resources in traditional cuisine is done to maintain local tradition and culture reflecting local wisdom. This research shows how Tegal use local vegetable and meat in traditional cuisine to keep the livestock and crop stock to preserve the tradition and culture embedded in the and culture embedded in the cuisine and to promote the culinary tourism. It was done by holding a folklore field research to collect and analyze the data and translation methods, techniques, and procedures to translate the collected document. The result shows that those efforts are beneficial for the local people to preserve their natural resources, tradition, and business that maintain their local identity as part of their local culture. Research background, culture is defined in many ways, including a complete systems of idea, act, and human creation as part of their society. Therefore, it can be inherited, created, or learned. One of the example of cultures as part of human being creation is traditions. And one of many examples of tradition is the traditions of cooking, the traditional cuisines in which local people keep the old ways of cooking, serving and consuming traditional food in particular occasions that were inherited from their ancestors and passed from generation to generation as part of their local tradition. Culture is also defined as knowledge, belief, art, moral, custom, as well as human being capabilities and habits in their society. Traditional cuisine belongs to culture as it is part of society's knowledge, custom, capabilities of cooking the food and habits of consuming the food in particular traditional or cultural events. Keeping traditional cuisine is one of many ways of preserve culture since it will also maintain society's history and way of life reflecting their culture. This research shows how Tegal City people utilize their abundant natural resources such as livestock and crops as the ingredients of their traditional cuisines offered as Tegal City traditional culinary tourism items to maintain their traditions, local identity, and local culture. Theoretical background. Culture can be defined as people's way of thinking and way of life that make them able to run their life in their society. When people as the owner of the culture still keep it in their life, culture can be passed from generation to generation. To maintain culture, the society should put an effort which is supported by the authority to keep using and passing it. Since culture can be divided into many forms of human being creations, culture can also be maintained through one of many cultures from maintenances. One of the ways to maintain a culture can be done by keeping traditional cuisine using local ingredients, which preserve local tradition as part of local culture. Research methodology. This research explained 8 traditional cuisine chosen by using purposive sampling technique to select the most famous traditional culinary tourism in Tegal City. The data were obtained by using Dundas 2 folklore methods, that is identification is objective and empirical. The data were collected by using documentation method to get written information from various sources. And the second is interpretation is subjective and speculative. The data were gathered by using participatory observation, note-taking, and recording technique to get information from local informants. Those methods were used to obtain complete information and comprehensive explanations of the history, the ingredients, the way it is cooked, served, and consumed, the story behind its name, and the way it attracts people to taste it. Well, there are 2 Sega Ponggol and Sega Lengko, it's almost the same. Well, Sega Ponggol is a traditional cuisine for breakfast consisting of rice with a kind of orek tempe named Ponggol as the main dish on top of the rice and orange kerupuk, traditional crackers topping that can be added with various side dishes such as fried noodles or cucumber pickle. It is normally served in banana leaf wrapping as bekal or box, which is taken home or brought to the working place. The second is segalinggo. Segalinggo is a traditional cuisine for breakfast or lunch, consisting of rice with small chopped fried tempeh and yellow tofu, hot water soaked bean sprout, and minced fresh unpeeled cucumber topping as side dishes. It is then smothered with peanut sauce, added with soy sauce, and sprinkled with yellow kerupuk mie. It is normally served on a plate and consumed right after it is directly prepared on the food stall by the seller. This is a picture of sega ponggol and segalinggo. You are not hungry, Nafi? Okay. Sega ponggol is Tegal city-old cuisine. It was previously made for sugarcane laborers in Tegal Regency and Brebes district who were working in sugarcane field for 2 big sugar factories in Tegal area. They were given sega ponggol by their families or the sugarcane factory owner or management for breakfast and lunch so that they could go earlier in the morning without having breakfast at home first or do not have to go back home for lunch in the afternoon. Nowadays, there are sega ponggol that was served at midnight called ponggol setan or pongset to refer to the very hot and spicy ponggol and satan or ghosts who frighten people at night. Sega ponggol is made by cooking the rice first and then cooking tempeh into a kind of orek tempeh named ponggol by sauteing chopped onion, garlic, and chili first before adding small chopped tempeh and putting dense coconut milk, get a very dense sauce on the tempeh, and soy sauce to get the brown color and the sweet taste, and then add beef or chicken broth, bay leaf, galangal, lemongrass, salt, pepper, and sugar, and let it cook. While sega ponggol is served by putting the rice on banana leaf and then put ponggol on top as the main side dish. It is added with side dishes such as fried noodle and particular orange kerupuk specially used for it, and then wrapped with banana leaf and taken away as breakfast or lunch box. While segalinggo is Tegal city-old cuisine, however, since the matter is prepared right before it is served, it doesn't get stale easily. Thus, it can be served as lunch. This meal was previously came from Indramayu and Cirebon, West Java. It enters Tegal city from Brebes district as the border of Central Java and West Java. Segalinggo is made by cooking the rice first and then frying tempeh and yellow tofu. It is served by putting the small chopped tempeh and tofu on top of the rice as side dishes. It is then smothered with peanut sauce, added with hot water soaked bean sprout, minced fresh unpeeled cucumber, fried onion, and soy sauce on top before it is sprinkled with particular kerupuk mie on the whole dish as toppings. Nowadays, lengko is also served with lontong instead of rice. Well, and then is sate kambing tirus and sate ayam sijan. Sate kambing tirus is a traditional cuisine for lunch or dinner consisting of medium cooked goat satay, smothered with soy sauce and added with minced onion, tomato, and cabai rawit, small green cayenne chili. This satay is famous for its chew mutton served while it is hot. Sate kambing tirus is Tegal city-old cuisine as well. It is consisting of chopped mutton stick in bamboo skewer and then grilled and served before it is done. It's medium grilled. It is then smothered with soy sauce, added with chopped onion, tomato, and cabai rawit. This satay is famous for its chewy mutton as it usually uses young goat, 3 to 5 months old, called batibul bawah 3 bulan or balibul bawah 5 bulan. Tirus is the name of a particular street area in Captain Sudibyo Street, Tegal City, where the first owner of Sate Kambing Tirus, Haji Yahya, started business in 1980. The word Tirus comes from 2 words, Tikungan, band of road, and Lurus Street, referring to the locations of the first food stall, which is precisely located on a straight road after bending 1. Meanwhile, sate ayam sijan is a traditional cuisine for dinner consisting of chicken, meat, and skin satay, smothered with peanut sauce and added with soy sauce, minced onion, tomato, and boiled cabai rawit. This satay is famous for its big cutting meat and skin. This satay can be served with rice lontong and a light opor soup containing chicken bones as the leftover of the chicken meat and skin, which is used for the satay. Sijan is the name of the first owner of the chicken satay business who started selling the satay by walking around the city in 1960 using pikulan. Pikulan means particular container to carry and prepare food, which is carried on the seller's shoulder. Kupat glabet and kupat bongkok. Kupat glabet is a traditional cuisine for lunch or dinner consisting of kupat is a rice filled in coconut leaf, which is specially formed into a kind of rhombus shape and then boiled until it is cooked. It is chopped and smoothed with dense glabet, opor sauce, and added with sambal goreng, fried onion, yellow kerupuk mie is a traditional crackers as toppings. Meanwhile, kupat bongkok is a traditional cuisine for breakfast consisting of kupat lontong, rice filled in banana leaves, which is specially formed into a kind of rectangular shape and then boiled until it is cooked. It is chopped and put in a plastic and smothered with bongkok sauce. It's a light opor sauce cooked with stale tempeh puree. It is added with sambal goreng, fried onion, and kerupuk mie as toppings. Well, this is the pictures. This is kupat glabet, kupat bongkok, and then kupat bongkok on a cup. Well, the word glabet means very dense sauce that is almost being sticky as a result of adding corn flour or rice flour into opor sauce. The opor sauce is made by sauteing a puree of onion, garlic, candlenut, coriander, ginger, and turmeric. And then add dense coconut milk and corn flour or rice flour to make the sauce dense. And chicken broth, bay leaf, galangal, lemongrass, salt, and sugar, and let it cook. The bongkok sauce is made of steamed stale tempeh puree, which is cooked with two different sauces. The first sauce is salted onion, garlic, pepper, candlenut, ginger, cut cherry, galangal, salt, pepper, and sugar puree, which is added with water to make it into a light sauce. While the second sauce is the salted onion, garlic, chili, hot water soaked noodle, salt, pepper, and sugar puree, which is added with water to make it into dense sauce. The two sauces were smothered on the chopped kupat and then added with the toppings. There is a unique wrapping of takeaway kupat bongkok, which is made by tidying the plastic container with slice of banana leaf taken from the kupat wrapping. Well, next is Soto Tegal. Soto is a traditional cuisine for lunch or dinner consisting of soto is a chicken soup with fermented bean sauce seasoning named tauco that can be served with rice or lontong, rice filled in banana leaves, which is especially formed into a cylinder shape and then boiled until it is cooked. There are two famous soto sellers, Pasar Senggol and Sedep Malam. Soto is the city old cuisine commonly served as lunch or dinner menu consisting of a kind of chicken soup named soto, which is cooked with fermented soybean puree named tauco that is served with nasi or lontong. It is then added with minced fried chicken from the chicken that is boiled to get the chicken broth for soto, hot water soaked beans broth, minced scallions, and fried onion on top. Soto is a form.
Ibu Atrinawati. Thank
Soto
you.
is a form of Chinese and Japanese assimilation in which Chinese common cooking ingredients named tauto, fermented soybean, is mixed with a kind of Japanese soup named soto. This particular kind of soto is called tauto in Pekalongan and soto in Tegal. They are different on the use of hot water soaked beans broth as topping and the meat. Tauto doesn't use beans broth and use chopped boiled beef instead of minced fried chicken. Well, this is pictures of soto. And the next glota. Glotas is the city old cuisine made of beef and chicken broth and a spicy puree of gembus, tofu dregs. It is made by boiling with beef and chicken bones to get its broth and added with hot and spicy steamed gembus puree. The hot and spicy gembus puree is made by sauteing onion, garlic, candlenut, turmeric, coriander, and ginger puree and add chili, salt, pepper, and sugar. Add the salted seasoning into the steamed gembus puree and put it into the broth. Add the green chili and cabai rawit, let it cook and become dense like porridge. It is served along with the chicken bones and kerupuk antor. The word glota comes from the beef and chicken bones sound hitting the pan when it is cooked with gembus puree. Well, this is a pictures of glota. Well, the conclusion, the researchers found out that the City people have a local wisdom reflecting their way of thinking and way of life, since they were utilizing abundant local natural resources such as goat and chicken from local seller, as well as onion, tempeh, tofu, gembus, soy sauce, or other vegetable-based product from farmers, producers, and sellers. This effort is done to keep the local livestock and crops and to empower local people business. This research shows how local people supported by local government keep their traditional cuisine as part of the family tradition, and the people prosperity since it is used in culinary tourism business to attract visitors who are interested in testing famous traditionally culinary items in the city. It shows that if the people who own a culture put an effort to keep their culture, it will not be shifted, replaced, endangered, extinct, or dead. Instead, it can be passed, learned, and even spread throughout the world. Okay, thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you very much, Ibu Atrinawati, for the presentations. And is there any question from the audience? Maybe we should ask the real food to be presented in this room, so we can
Yeah.
enjoy.
Yeah, I know. Actually, yes, I want to give one.
Yeah, okay. Is there any question from the audience? Not yet. Okay, maybe one short question from me, Ibu Atrinawati.
Yes.
So after this research, what do you mean the implication of the research to the society? I mean, I heard you mention about what pongo setan or something about very hot
Pongo
or
setan.
spicy. Yeah, very spicy food that maybe it's not been produced in the few years ago. So what is the implication, or is there any what is your next future study about this research, how to improve or how to maintain the local wisdom in this area of study?
Yeah, actually, I appreciate much because when I went there and doing the research, well, we can what is it? Well, a lot of people really going there to buy it, and sego ponggol is now being consumed at night. Actually, it's a breakfast, but now can be what is it? Bisa dinikmati gitu ya malam hari, means like ponggol setan, mean actually setan means the ghost that threaten people, but you know the seller is also at night. It is sell ponggol at night. So well, I think it's a kind of what is it, the government try to help the seller, or well, actually there are more than 8. Yeah, more than 8 that government supported to this to the seller. Yeah, it's not in the city, but it's also in a regency, something like that. Well, I think it's a good culture for, well, yeah, local wisdom, something like that. It's a kind of something that we have to keep it, and yeah, it's not always a modern stall or a modern yeah, something like, not a big restaurant, but it's really delicious in taste.
Yeah, okay. So I think they still want to follow the trend, like setan use like
Yes.
setan very hot spicy or like something like that. So,
setan, yeah, I mean hot spicy.
okay, that's very interesting. So I will also take sate kambing tirus into my list, because
Yes.
I don't I never hear about sate kambing tirus in Tegal. I came from Pekalongan, so it's really near to my.
Really? Oh my gosh, it's really delicious.
Okay. Thank you, Ibu Atrinawati, for the presentations.
My pleasure.
And yeah, we will move to the 4th presenters. 1787 from individual to collective triggery in Semarang, colonial period to post-independence revolutions, by Ibu Endah Sri Hartati. Are you there, Ibu Enda?
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so similar to the previous presenters, you have 10 minutes for the presentation and 5 minutes for the discussions. The time is yours.
Okay, thank you. You look PPT.
Not yet, maybe it's still in the processing.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, thank you very much, Miss or Mrs. Nafi.
This is.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Indah Siartati. And when it is a wonderful and precious and presenter in the ICENIS seminar. My title paper from individual to collective tracker and coastal environment Semarang from Dutch colonial period to post-independent revolution. My papers the research method, the research using historical method, and because I'm a historian, the research collect data through heuristic in the National Library, Library of Gadjah Mada University, Central Java, research library for second, the research for frame research, SR collective data from Suara Merdeka archive and other essential source, then the collective data petition and analysis to assist the researcher in writing to papers.
Ibu Indah, could you please use slideshow for the presentation?
Okay.
So we can see it better.
Okay. Ooh.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay. Introduction. Semarang is a coastal environment as the capital city of Central Java, whose position is geographically very strategic, connecting the big cities on the northern coast and the town in the hinterland. Semarang was the center of the transportation network, connected the harbor and coastal and hinterlands area. And in the Dutch colonial, Semarang was to be the center of railway transportation across Java. Because Semarang also in the center of road transportation that was connected between in the areas and hinterlands by clicking vehicle, people, and the product of the crop in the can be exported through Semarang Harbor. This position in the city to become a big industrial city on the early 20th century and 20th century. Additionally, industrialization caused many people to flow to Semarang, leaving a factory worker, employers in formal sector, service, etc. And Semarang lived permanently and some temporarily migrated because the preferred on the buffer zone such as Demak, Kudus, Jepara, Salatiga, Grobogan, Kendal, and etc. Semarang is one of the industrial cities developed in the 20th century. In the between the capital owner, citizen from other cities, and the works in the hands, mobility lead to social problem, namely crime. A crime that occurred in the 20th century to the post-independent revolution will be in the study of the highway also created various symbol with the signified their identity, the site could be building, spatial planning, the behavior of road control and cross road and the etc. The highway culture is constructed from interrelation between space and the historical experience. The emergence of the highway create pathology culture. The culture code reflects from the emergence of street hawk. I'm sorry, hawks. The action in industrial individually as theft, robbery on the route to the passing vehicles at night. The environmental of criminal areas in Semarang focus on Tanjung Mas, Pasar Johar Semarang Market. Meanwhile, based on the information from people on the origin of the criminal in Johar Market were from Solo, Jepara, Sayong, etc. The original the criminal the Pedamaran area for Semarang people was prone to crime, and the criminal were mostly committed by adults. And conclusion, Semarang from the colonial to independence time was a criminal environment, crime committed individually or in group, and the results of economic from people to achieve establishment. In afterward, criminality dodged economic gap on the community in Semarang as one of the industrial cities in the 20th century. For people who have an opportunity in receiving on the benefit, they can support the life. However, people who could not in this formal job committed criminal acts to meet their economic need by picture and robbery. Okay, thank you very much. And my ini abstract ini the Harvard the moment caused crime activities during the post-independence period berbeda sekali dengan masa colonial period. Thank you, Mr. Novi.
Thank you, Ibu Indah Sri Hartati for the presentations. Yeah, it's very interesting how to see the movement from individual to group, yeah, group degree.
Okay.
Yeah, in
Yes.
Semarang. So yeah, I will open first for the Q&A session. Is there any question? Is there any question from the audience?
I have questions.
Yeah, please, Ibu Retna.
It's very interesting presentation because you mentioned something about the change from in the abstract in the last sentence, which I found very I think it's the key point of your presentation, that it's a shift from economic reason to attack to anti-foreign movement during the post-independence. Does it mean that this is the main changes as the, or it's still mixed between the anti-foreign and economic factors?
Yes. Okay, thank you, Bu Ratna Hanani. Yeah. Okay, thank you your question. The factor of economic in the colonial era. Ini maaf ya, pakai bahasa Indonesia campur. Pada waktu masa kolonial itu melakukan kriminalitas itu dikarenakan karena memang kurang uang. ya kurang uang, jadi banyak kemiskinan, ya kemiskinan yang terjadi pada masa kolonial, dan yang dijarah, yang dibegal, yang dilakukan proses kriminalitas ini dilakukan pada orang-orang kaya, terutama orang Belanda dan orang dalam tanda petik etnis Tionghoa. Tapi jarang sekali orang pribumi yang bisa diambil, kecuali memang dia punya kekayaan. Ukuran kekayaan pada saat itu karena ini berhubungan dengan jalan, ya jalan transportation. Jadi di sini yang menjadi ukuran itu adalah motor, mobil, truk, ya perahu tow itu yang punya itu yang menjadi sasaran kriminalitas. Sedangkan pada masa setelah kemerdekaan, maka yang tidak lagi alasan kemiskinan dan sasarannya itu tidak lagi etnis Tionghoa dan orang Belanda, tetapi sasarannya semua. Ya, jadi orang pribumi pun juga menjadi sasaran di sini. Karena di sini itu ada kesenjangan tentang penghasilan dan lain sebagainya. Jadi itu yang bisa saya jawab untuk pertanyaan Bu Retna Hanani. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ibu Enda and Ibu Retna Hanani for the discussion. I think it's very interesting how to see different motivation of the Tegeri in the different era also. Thank you. And please stay here because we will take a picture together in the end of the session. So please don't leave this room. And we will move to the next presenters. 1788, Life Below Water. Oh, role of tradition, artisanal fisheries to ensure sustainable tourism in Karimun Jawa Island by Ibu Alivia Aflatus Zahra. Okay. Yeah, Ibu Alivia. Yeah, okay.
Is my voice audible?
Yeah, okay. So similar with the previous presenters, you have 10 minutes for the presentation and 5 minutes for the discussions. Okay, the time is yours.
Thank you for the opportunity to talk in this prestigious conference. I'm Olivia Fatuzahra from History Department, Faculty of Humanities. And today I would like to come up with a topic regarding to maritime sustainability. The title of my research is Life Shore Sustainable Tourism in Karimun Jawa Island. This research was qualitative method-based. I was taking from international literature, interviews, as well as observation on site. So why is it maritime sustainability? I believe that Indonesia and other Asia Pacific countries are relying on the coastal area to support its economy through the tourism. However, tourism often causes pollution and threats to the environment, and that's why we have to take care about its sustainability. For example, we have some indicators whether the life below water, it's a part of Sustainable Development Goals 2030, number 14, which contains a range of targets about maritime environment. And one of them is by establishing certain line of MPA or marine protected areas, which not only incorporates the biological and physical variables, but also involving the sociocultural variables, which are the human as the stakeholders of this. I'm picking Karimun Jawa as a study because it's intense of international tourism. It's conserved under the national park. Its multi-ethnicity is also very enticing. There are the Javanese, Maduris, Bajau, Bugis, and Mandar people there. But Bajau and Bugis are the two tribes which are intense when it comes to fishing communities. And one of the tradition is the artisanal fisheries tradition, which I'm going to talk about here. I propose that artisanal fisheries is capable to support the maritime sustainability in Karimun Jawa Island. So I'm taking it as a model to approach, as a method to approach the life below water to retain underwater biodiversity and boost local economics through a good ecotourism. Take a look at the geographical background of Karimun Jawa. It's north capital of Central Java, rich of mangrove forests, coral reefs, sand-top banks, with 27 little islands as a part of Karimun Jawa Island, like Menjangan, Menjangan Besar, etc. And in terms of international maritime tourism. First of all, I like to talk about the Bugis diaspora. They ended up getting to they ended up getting to Jawa after conflict ranges and land harvesting after they settled in Karimun Jawa. So these activities include coastal fishing, deep fishing, fish farming, as well as freshwater fishing as a ground. I would like to show a few fishing gears that are used by the Bugis people. Actually, it's a lot. The first one is called bubu. It's the most popular small-scale bamboo basket trap, and then romping.
Ibu Alivia. Okay, Ibu Alivia. If the connection is bad,
drift net lines and up to keep fishes to catch any fish. Sorry, I would like to fix it.
Ibu Alivia.
Yes, please.
Yeah, your connection maybe is not so good. So if you want, if you can turn off your camera, so the connection will be better. Your voice is unhearable, so
Response to their subsistence needs of surviving the
okay. You can turn off your camera if the connection is not so good. Your microphone is still in the mute mode.
Okay, hello. Okay, thank you. So as you can see, this variation of fishing gears emerges as a response to the subsistence need of the Bugis people. And each gear demonstrates different functions to catch particular type of fish in fishing grounds and also shift during a particular weather, breeding season, and other natural factors. So this also allows time and space for particular species to reproduce in the ideal amount, while the Bugis seamen would hunt for other group of species, and which embody the ecosystem biodiversity equilibration. Now we are moving on to the Bajo people. So the Bajo people lies in a more extreme side when it comes to sea living. They basically live on the sea. They used to live in a pile boat houses. They also have an old saying, "Our garden is sea." Kita punya taman di laut. And they also believe that sea is where their ancestors lies, which is called Boma di Lao. They're skilled, really skilled at boat building, navigation, watercraft, and very aware of the environment. They also have like traditional customary, which also contributes to the conversation of big animals such as whale shark. And here are the few fishing activities of the Bajo people. They also depend on east and west monsoon, just like the Bugis people. They do gleaning or nuba, inshore coastal fishing, palilibu, reef fishing, pongka, and lama, nomadic fishing for relatively larger scale of fishing. They do trolling, which is called tonda, hook and lines, row net, it's called ringi, tokong, and jala. They also use spears, it's called sapa, and also use traps, spears, and spear guns, which is called pana. I used to go to Karimun Jawa when my father's friend, who's a Bugis and Bajau man, and also a law enforcement officer in Marine Fisheries Affair, and he showed me how to use pana to catch the barracuda, and usually appear in the afternoon in around the coral reef, just like the lobster, trocus, sea cucumber. It's called bala as well as sete. It's very abundant in Karimun Jawa, and it tastes really delicious to eat raw actually. So the Bajo fishing, besides to supply the domestic needs, they also supply the local market. So it's not always subsistent, but it's still sustainable and small scale. They supply the local market operated by the Madurese and Javanese businessmen with their goods, which is actually also an international market, as we know that a lot of international tourists are coming to consume their goods. So it actually shows synergy and tolerance among ethnicities where the fishing ground is pretty much managed well. But yeah, the artisanal fisheries alone cannot solve the problem of marine exploitation. So multiple approaches are required besides giving access to these artisanal fishers. So you need to establish a policy that allows artisanal fisheries to go along with the large-scale fisheries, and allows them to balance the hunting practices that helps retaining biodiversity, and the socialization to provide rights of being well-being towards the artisanal fisheries communities is also very important. And a better management of external factors should be also noticed to affect the conformity of Bajo and Bugis people towards the fishing policy, and helping them to reutilize the eco-artisanal fishing gears to support the ecosystem and maritime tourism. So the local wisdom could be adopted by the tourism so that the tourists would be aware about this traditional, they would respect it as an approach to attain the livable water, for example. And also the law enforcement need to ensure about the amount of fishing gears. For example, 1,412 units of fishing lines, as well as reduction of 120 units of boo would be effective to attain this level of water. And we also need to make a policy policy should be made among some stakeholders such as PT and KJ, local marine fisheries affairs officers, the local government, and NGOs such as the National Park Authority, Yayasan 270, LSM Karimun, Underwater Coastal Cleanup Group, and so on and so forth. So the stakeholders that support ecological management of a national marine park through surveillance, monitoring, and conservation. Also, enough data collection is very important to determine the priority of the law enforcement based on specific category that might be data about species abundance in each fishing ground, fishing gear use in the estuarine, spatial data. And this will control the activities of fisheries in general. So we will serve reciprocity with the artisanal fishing communities. For example, an exploited fishing ground will help artisanal fishers' economics and supply the market and tourism at the same time, while estuarine biodiversity is ensured. And the most important thing is that the international tourists would be aware about the existence of this traditional culture. So I will be jumping up onto the conclusion already. As we can see, the traditional artisanal fishers of Bugis and Bajo descendants in Karimun Jawa tends to catch lower amounts of fish, and their local wisdom of environmental awareness, fishing techniques, and gears also tend to retain the biodiversity of underwater ecosystem in Karimun Jawa. So to support the environment and economics simultaneously, this traditional fisher should be protected by the law and the authorities as well as NGOs, so that they will be able to maintain the revenue of their catch by preventing large-scale fisheries to overexploit their fishing grounds. And it would be harmful for the economics as well as the fishing grounds and the biodiversity. So to reach the expected condition, it's also crucial to establish the ban of harmful gears such as dynamite and poisons, but it's already happening. So I'm really grateful that those are already illegalized, and get the Bugis Bajo culture promoted as a tourism asset. So a mirroring from the model of Karimun Jawa Island, the economy of artisanal fishing communities is not threatened by the enforcement of the fish exploitation. And instead, it's actually balanced by the promotion of marine ecotourism that demands stakeholders and tourist involvement to support the underwater protection. And yeah, the idea of developing research, protecting traditional artisanal fisheries culture, and amassing multi-stakeholders to co-create a healthy underwater ecosystem is a pretty ideal solution to reach the goals of life below water, the SDG number 14, which not only support the environmental sustainability, but also the indigenous culture and the traditions of the Bugis and Bajo people there, the tourism that supports the economics of the local people in Karimun Jawa, as well as the state economics of Indonesia in general, and supporting the good image of tourism there, as well as the local well-being. So that's all about my study. I hope this will be insightful. I would like to do a further, I hope we can do a further studies and further improvement on this research, and I hope this would be fruitful. Thank you for the attention and good afternoon. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam
Thank you,
warahmatullahi
Ibu
wabarakatuh.
Olivia, for the presentation. You have a very good English. So I like so like we watching a BBC. Yeah.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you very much, Ibu Olivia. So I would like to open a question and answer session. So is there any question from the audience? Not yet. Okay, so only one short question from me. Is there any specific condition or requirements for implementing this research in other location, for example? So I think you're a bit like a model of Karimun Jawa and implemented for the Bajo people or something like that, or is there any specific requirements, or it can be implemented in all location, or what?
Okay, thank you so much for the question, Mrs. Novi. So actually, there would be we can implement this solution if there are the right policy and the right law enforcement in the area that we intend to implement. For example, if there are too many large-scale fishers around the area that we target, it would be very difficult for artisanal fishers to survive. So the key is actually not only the fishers itself, the existence of the fishing communities itself, but also the NGOs, as well as the local authorities that make sure they are given the access, they are given the enough supplies in the fishing grounds, and also the reassurance if they will get their well-being being guaranteed, because I see that a lot of artisanal fisheries, sometimes they leave the tradition. For example, the Bajo people in Australia, they used to leave the tradition of prohibiting the catch of whale shark because they see how the Chinese market was very profitable for catching whale sharks, so that they left their tradition and start to do those illegal things, and they start to do more commercial fisheries. So what we need to do is to support these artisanal fishers by giving the right policy that also manage the other stakeholders not to interrupt their fishing grounds. And yes, so as far as I research, that's my answer. I hope it could answer your question. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Ibu Olivia. So I think it will be a very good model how to see the interaction between stakeholder, the environment, from the fisherman itself, or from the government, or from the policy, and many things. Okay. So I think it will be a very good model to see the interaction, between the stakeholder, between the the visionary itself and from the governments.
Sure.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Alivia, for the great presentations and the discussion. And we will move to the next presenters. Okay. The next presenters is 1790 COVID-19 and adaptation strategies in community-based tourism. Insight from community-based tourism sector in Central Java by Ibu Retna Hanani, right? Okay. So Ibu Retna Hanani, you have 10 minutes for the presentation and 5 minutes for the discussions. The times is yours.
Yeah, but the thing is, I cannot share my screen. Maybe Bu Alivia can take down her presentation first.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Wait on. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. And I would like to say some disclaimer first, because it seems like I'm the bad student here because I don't use the official template from the ICENIS, and I was very sorry for that. Maybe I lost in the email exchange. And I would like to present our preliminary research. At the moment, we are still collecting data from other tourism sector in Central Java, but we can share some stories from two tourism places in Central Java that we have research on. Okay, so the title of this presentation is COVID-19 and Adaptation Strategies in Community-Based Tourism. Basically, when we talk about community-based tourism, we talk about desa wisata in general term, but we also talk about other kind of tourism sector that owned by government or by private sector, but involving communities in the daily management of the tourism sector. So the background of this research is the high positivity rate of COVID-19 in Indonesia that forced the government to create several policies that basically try to limit human mobility. As we know, in Indonesia, the implementation of large-scale social restriction, PSBB, and now we have PPKM. In 2019, before the pandemic, tourism sector contributed quite a lot in Indonesian economy. It's around $15 billion US. But the income from tourism sector has fallen quite significantly due to the COVID-19. Approximately 90% of the income from tourism sector fallen. One of the reasons is the sharp decrease of tourists, especially foreign tourist arrivals during the pandemic. This is today's active cases in Indonesia. As we can see that the cases has risen exponentially since June 2021, and I think the case is still growing, unfortunately. However, actually in 2021 is designated as normalization stage. The national policies for tourism sector, they created several stages to cope with the impact of COVID-19 for tourism sector. In the first beginning of COVID-19, the government defined the time as emergency response, and then they hope that by June and December 2020, we can come up with some kind of recovery stage. And this year, actually, it should be better. But as we can see that the situation is not improving, and it's even getting worse. So when we see these stages, we have to remember that this is the normative ideal policy stages that has been set by the government. And of course, there will be some kind of modification and maybe some kind of adjustment for this for the stages. And in the provincial government, the Central Java provincial government, they have created some policies, but mostly focus on increasing awareness as well as services in implementing health protocols. So most of the policy from the Central Java government rely on the increasing awareness from the tourist itself in enforcing strict health protocol in destinations, in tourism destinations. This kind of policy, unfortunately, only relevant to tourism sectors managed by provincial government. And in our case study, it's Grojogan Sewu in Tawangmangu. So we initially planned to research on several destinations in Central Java, but until today we could only visit 2 places, which is Umbul Ponggok in Klaten and one other is Grojogan Sewu in Tawangmangu. And we hope that we can continue our research with the case subside a little bit. So Umbul Ponggok is located in Klaten. It's been very famous tourist destination in Central Java due to this water-based tourism. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, they planned to expand the destination. They even set to expand the income target for 2020, but when the pandemic happened, it's all crushed the dreams of Umbul Ponggok manager. So in addition to loss of the potential income, the potential development plan for Umbul Ponggok to attract more visitors has been delayed due to COVID-19 pandemic. We also visited Grojogan Sewu in Tawangmangu, and we want to know what kind of adaptation policies that has been implemented in these destinations. We use a qualitative approach. Basically, we ask 7 key figures in this in the tourism policy in these 2 places, and as you can see on the slide, we try to cover most of the central figures in tourism policy in Central Java and in Umbul Ponggok and in Tawangmangu. I will not explain all the theoretical framework for the research, but basically we adopted the adaptation framework from IPCC. Unfortunately, until today, we're still trying to find, or maybe we want to contribute to discussion on adaptation theory based on, not based on disaster governance, but based on pandemic situations, because most of the adaptation theory that we know at the moment is usually created and based on disaster governance literature. So adaptation basically can be implemented by different actors. And what is important in this policy that all the adaptation policy require group effort to construct the growth of the community resilience. And adaptation can be a product as well as a process. And in this research, we are focusing to look at adaptation as a process, because we see that there are still many difficulties to make adaptation as an output, as a result of a certain policy intervention. So move to the findings. Basically, what we can say that Central Java Provincial Tourism Office since October 2020 already opened travel destinations to tourism. Of course, it has been changed due to the Delta variant attack that we have recently, but before the Delta variants become prominent in the COVID-19 cases, basically Central Java Provincial Tourism Office has already opened many travel destinations in Central Java. what is the main requirement of this opening is the health protocol. So the enforcement of health protocol becomes the responsibility of the destination manager. So, but in addition to enforcing health protocol, the provincial government also have a strict regulation of reducing the number of foreign tourist visits. Basically, it's almost impossible to visit Central Java if you are a foreigner, unless you are already living or staying in Indonesia. So the Central Java provincial government prioritize internal tourists from inside Central Java. They even limit the number of visits from outside Central Java. So we tried. What they do is basically trying to contain the spread of COVID-19 by limiting the number of tourists only from inside Central Java. What is also interesting is to look at the policies from district government. I will try to wrap up as soon as possible.
Thank you.
We can see two different approach. In Klaten, we see a stricter approach to travel destination. They even do not hesitate to close the destination, or in this case Umbul Ponggok, when they conduct a random swab test and when they found any positive case. This is quite different with what happened in Karanganyar, where they are quite relaxed about random case tests or enforcing health protocols. One of the consideration of this more relaxed policy is because the destination is open. It's not enclosed destination. It's basically forest. So they are quite relaxed about that. But they still try to force they try to limit the number of tourists that visit the Grojogan Sewu in Tawangmangu. So from the experience of Umbul Ponggok and the experience of Grojogan Sewu in Tawangmangu, we can see that there are four kind of policies that has been implemented by this destination. Basically, they try to sterilize the places. They open for sporadic openings and closing based on instruction from District Tourism Office. They try to limit number of visitors and closing off some attraction and amenities such as swimming pool. So based on these two stories, we can conclude tentatively that all of the adaptation policies enforced in these two destinations rely on how powerful the government try to implement the policy, the adaptation policy. If the government is more relaxed, such as in Karanganyar, then the destination manager will be also more relaxed. And what we can see in Klaten, with stricter government, they have a more complete adaptation policies implemented in their destinations. Thank you so much for your attention, and I'm looking forward for any kind of comment and questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ibu Retna Hanani, for the presentations. Very interesting topic. And okay, I will open the Q&A sessions. Is there any question from the audience? Not yet. Okay, so only one short question from me. Okay, I think it's very related with our current situation today. And yeah, I think it's more than 2 years ago I have visited the Tawangmangu or Grojogan Sewu. So I think it will be very different with these situations. Yeah. So after all of this research, what is your recommendations or what is your future study about this the situation of pandemic, we don't know how long it will be stayed in this condition. So what is your opinion or what is your recommendation to the community or the governments about these situations?
Yeah. Oh, I forgot to mention that at this time we also have Amni Rahman, my co-author of the paper, and maybe he can add something later. What we propose tentatively, again based on our preliminary research, we believe that some kind of flexibility in policy is important. Flexibility here means that the government have to really look up at the data. So when the cases rises, they have to stick to the public health measure, that is to close the destination, while maybe at some later time, if the cases are decreasing, then they can open again. So this is in public policy may not sound as a strict policy, as universal policy that can be implemented universally, but now basically customized public policy is far more important than the expectation to have a strict and universal policy. Maybe Mas Amni can add a little bit.
I think it's enough for your answer, Ms. Hannah.
Okay, thank you very much, Ibu Retna Hanani, for the questions. Yeah, it's really interesting. Okay, thank you. And then we will move to the next presenters. The next presenters is 1790 towns and towns of local wisdom as a management model towards sustainable fisheries by Ibu or Bapak. Dian, okay, Bapak Dian Sekalian.
Thank you. No problem. Thank
Okay.
you, Bu Novi.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, similar with the previous presenters, you have 10 minutes for the presentation and 5 minutes for the discussion. So the time is yours.
Okay, is my presentation visible?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Oh.
Pak Dian, I'm sorry, I can't hear your voice.
Sorry.
Okay. Yes, okay. I'm sorry, Pak Dian, your voice is unhearable.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay.
So why fisheries management is important? There are some reasons as follows. Indonesia is a country that has the second longest coastal line in the world. Indonesia is rich in marine and fisheries resources. People in coastal areas are mostly living in poverty. Poverty can be a threat for environment sustainability. Many local wisdom all over Indonesia are potential to be a good fishery management model. There are quite a lot of definition regarding what is local wisdom by some experts. Here I quote one of them from Professor Aji Samekto that in my opinion is quite represent them all. Local wisdom is best selected knowledge and know-how which use as guidance for community living in certain location in order to maintain their life sustainable. Methodology. As described before, paper is a literature review. This is the methodology and criteria implemented in selecting and analyze the papers reviewed in this literature review. Now, articles reviewed were collected from the national and international journals published within 2016 up to 2021. Keyword use were Indonesia Fisheries Local Wisdom and Indonesia Traditional Fisheries Management for international journals, while national journals keyword used were kearifan lokal perikanan. Articles collected on the first batch were then refined based on two criteria. The first, it is related to capture fisheries activities of local communities in Indonesia. And secondly, it is discussing the implementation of certain customary laws or institution regulating capture fisheries that was existing in research areas. And the last, this final step result on total of 24 relevant articles. Okay. Based on 24 relevant articles reviewed, there are 10 local wisdom research in those research articles, namely Sasi, Panglima Laut, Awik-Awik, Papadak or Hoholok, Pariaman Fishermen, Trihitakarana, Sebong Perak Village, Jaring Halus Village, Tiatiki, and Duano Tribe. Okay, let's start with Sasi. Some notes regarding this local wisdom are its practice in Moluccas and Papua. Actually, it's not exclusively applied for fishery. The word Sasi literally means ban. It is set open and closed season for fishing. Has shown ability to evolve through time, but it is still lacking of local government support. The next is Panglima Laut. It is widely practiced throughout Aceh. It has been evolved since Samudra Pasai Sultanate era. Panglima Laut is a customary law or adat laut enforcer. Is regulate fishing activity among local community member. Having written customary law and legal support from national and local government. However, it has potential for overlapping authorities against formal law officers. Awik-awik, the term awik-awik can be found in both Bali and West Nusa Tenggara. However, in relation of fisheries management, awik-awik practice in West Nusa Tenggara is more relevant. A set of customary law that regulate fishing activity, including fishing gears, usage, fishing zoning, and also open and closed season for fishing. It has having relatively complete set of customary law and receiving a good perceived from the society. However, it is lacking of government support and difficult to enforce the customary law. Papadak or Holok is practiced in Rotendao, East Nusa Tenggara Province. It predated to the arrival of Dutch and Portuguese and was originally implemented only for agricultural and plantation management, consisting a set of customary law that prohibit destructive activities in coastal areas. The strong point that Papadak or Holok that it is originated from local communities' own awareness on the importance of marine conservation and had written customary law. It is relatively new, thus it may need more time to perfection and no formal law support yet. Pariaman Fishermen, implemented in Pariaman District of West Sumatra Province, consisting a set of customary law that prohibit destructive activities in coastal areas. It is emerged only recently in relation with the local community's livelihood shifting from land-oriented into marine-oriented. The strong points originated from local communities' own awareness on the importance of marine conservation. However, is only acknowledged by small-scale fisheries in limited area. Trihita Karana. It's practiced in Bali, not specially proposed for fishery management, but more on environmental management, fishery included, especially in coastal area. Basic principles was to reach harmony among humans, between humans and environment, and between humans and their creator. It is potential to improve the welfare of Balinese small-scale fishermen. However, Bali is dominated by industrial-scale fishing armada that relatively less concerned to this local wisdom. Sebong Pereh village. I'm not sure how to pronounce this correctly. It is Sebong Pereh or Sebong Pereh, but it is a coastal village in Bintan Island, Riau Island province. The village practiced a local wisdom in purpose to protect seahorse, specifically on the seahorse that has become a high-valued community from overexploitation. The strong points, it is originated from local communities' own awareness on the importance of seahorse conservation, but it is weak in community commitment and controlling the implementation of the regulation. Jaring Halus village, it is a cottage village in Langkat district, North Sumatra province. The village had a guidance on determining best season for fishing using a Hijriah calendar. It is more on fishermen welfare and safety during fishing activities. However, it has limited on fisheries conservation. Tiatiki existed in the Paprebay, Jayapura City, Papua. Basically regulate open and closed fishing areas for certain fish species, both demersal and pelagic, emerged from local community awareness on the needs of marine, especially fishery resource conservation. But the same case as some other local wisdom, it is still lacking of government support. Duano tribe. The Duano tribe is living in coastal area of Jambi province. This tribe is considered to be a branch of larger suku laut that had a long history that can be traced back to Sriwijaya Kingdom era. They are implemented marine conservation values that respect the sea. However, it becoming less and less practiced due to changed way of life of the tribe member and blending with other tribes in Jambi. To provide a better view on how this local wisdom distributed all over Indonesia, here is the treatment of them. Please note that position is just approximate. Out of 24 articles and 10 local wisdom, there are 3 local wisdom researched the most, namely Sasi, Panglima Laut, and Awik-Awik. And here is how this local wisdom research based on papers collected. As can be seen, Panglima Laut, Awik-Awik, and Sasi are the most researched. In number of papers reviewed, Panglima Laut was researched in 5 papers or 26.3%, Awik-Awik in 4 papers or around 21%, and Sasi in 3 papers or 15.8%. The rest were relatively less research as they were only researched in 1 paper, except for Papadak that was researched in 2 papers.
Pak Dian, you have more 2 minutes left.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
This top local wisdom is now also found to be the most frequent mentioned than when some articles referred as fisheries local wisdom. At least combination any 2 out of these 3 local wisdom was noted in 8 articles reviewed. Popularity of these 3 local wisdom caused by some factors, their long history and existence within the local society, fisheries conservation values they carry, and existence of organizational structure. So here's the question based on this literature review: which local wisdom is the most potential? Among 3 local wisdom that researched the most based on this literature review, Panglima Laut with its adat laut seem to be the most capable local wisdom to cope with the dynamic of the modern era. Sorry. Strong points of there are some characteristics that Panglima Laut with its adat laut and can be considered the most capable fisheries local wisdom. The first is acknowledgement, where both society and government acknowledge and respect this institution. It has written customary law written customary law is in effect and supported by formal law, and it has also organizational management. The institution had organizational structure and election mechanism. Based on my previous, here are some challenges that local wisdom must manage. Number one is how to perfectly incorporate these local wisdom values into formal law, and at the same time developing local wisdom and its society. There were some evidence that the level of adherence to local wisdom, including to adat laut in Aceh, has been decreasing. Panglima Laut potential has not been maximized for fishery management, especially in coastal area. Current utilization is more as an eye extension for formal law enforcer to control fishery activity. The need of incorporating local society and local wisdom in government policy is also important factor to creating good environmental governance, as per explained by Dr. Lilin Budiati, and I quoted in this slide. Conclusion, points on conclusion. Here are some conclusion based on papers review. Originality of values used in local wisdom and compatibility with the local society custom are good social capital to get good adherence. Therefore, using local wisdom as basis for formal regulation on fisheries and coastal management will bring more advantages, such as less rejection from community, voluntary supervision from community in law enforcement, and ease to implement. Research article collected in this literature review were mostly using local wisdom point of view and less exploring local society's point of view, especially what difficulties and challenges they have to deal by the existence and implementation of this local wisdom. And the last, level of adherence to the local wisdom that consistently found decreasing as reported on SASI and awik implementation, and even to Panglima Laut and Adat Laut implementation in Aceh, which considered to be a complete package, will need a further research. Okay, thank you. I think that's all I can present. Thank you for the attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. May Allah always bless us good health.
Amen. Thank you, Bapak Dian Keliat, for the presentation. We are very sorry, but the time is up, so the Q&A session will be continued in the chat box because we still
Okay,
have
no problem.
presenters, and I have to move to the room 5 for the next session, and we have only 10 minutes left for the next presenter. So,
Okay,
Bapak
no
Dian
problem.
Keliat,
Thank you.
thank you very much for the presentations.
You're very welcome.
Okay, and the last presenters will be 1,898 effect of flow rate of HE gas in the analysis of hydrogen in metal using NDAJ laser-induced breakdown spectroscopy by Ali Kumaini, or who will present the paper?
Yes. Merci.
Okay. Ibu Dwi Endah Nimatul Amalia, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you have 10 minutes for the presentations. The time is yours.
Okay, thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, allow me to thank you for time given to me. Second time, let's introduce myself. My name is Dwi Endah Nimatul Amalia. I'm a student of Physics Department at Diponegoro University. On this time, I will present a paper with the title Effect of Flow Rate of Helium Gas in the Analysis of Hydrogen in Metal using NDX Laser-Induced Breakdown Spectroscopy. My supervisor is Mr. Ali Humaini. Table of content. There are introduction, purpose, experimental procedure, result, and conclusion. At first, introduction. Hydrogen is like element which give influence to the strength of metal material such as steel and iron. The accumulation of hydrogen with increasing concentration can reduce the strength of the metal. Thus, periodical inspection of hydrogen detection is necessary in order to assure the quality of metal, especially in the metal industry and nuclear power plant. Zircalite is a metal alloy which is mainly in the form of zirconium with other metal alloys added with certain composition. In nuclear power plant, a zircalite metal is employed as a vessel to contain uranium fuel. Then spectroscopy plasma laser. Spectroscopy plasma laser has advantage, perform rapid analysis with less sample pre-treatment, low-cost instruments, and simultaneous elemental analysis can be released. Then purpose. The work experiment has purpose to identify the elemental hydrogen content in zircalite using the laser-induced breakdown spectroscopy method, and to determine effect of helium gas flow rate in the analysis of hydrogen in zircalite sample has been examined using laser-induced breakdown spectroscopy in helium surrounding gas at atmosphere pressure. Then experimental procedure. This figure is the setup of experiment used in this work. It is NDX laser with a fundamental wavelength of 164 nanometer, a pulse duration of 10 nanoseconds, and laser energy of 60 millijoule was irradiated and focused on a metal sample containing hydrogen by a quartz lens with a focal length of 1050 millimeter to induce luminous plasma. Then the plasma was sent into a optical multi-channel analyzer via optical fiber to obtain an emission spectrum of hydrogen. Result. This figure displays emission spectrum taken from the zircalite sample containing hydrogen with a concentration of 0 milligram per kilogram and flow rate of helium gas of a half liter per minute. Based on picture, the highest intensity at the hydrogen emission line 667 nanometer. Next, this figure 2 show emission intensity of hydrogen from the atmosphere taken from the zircalite sample containing 0 milligram per kilogram hydrogen change with the flow rate of helium gas flow in the small chamber. Based on the picture, increasing the flow rate, the intensity of hydrogen slowly decreases and finally completely disappears at 7 liters per minute. Then figure 3 display emission spectrum of hydrogen taken from the zircalite sample containing 700 milligram per kilogram hydrogen with the highest intensity at the hydrogen emission line 667 nanometer. However, specific for hydrogen emission line at 656.2 nanometer, the intensity is very high. At last, figure 4 So, a calibration curve of hydrogen taken from the circular sample containing various concentration of hydrogen. It can clearly be seen that with increasing the concentration, the emission intensity of hydrogen also increase with good linear calibration curve. And last conclusion. Based the experiment, the results show that with increasing the flow rate of helium gas, the intensity of hydrogen disturbance coming from the atmosphere can be reduced and diminished when the flow rate of helium gas was set at 7 liters per minute. Thus, by setting the flow rate of helium gas of 7 liters per minute, analysis of hydrogen from the circular sample can be made. A sample quantitative analysis of hydrogen in the circular sample has been successfully carried with a limit detection of hydrogen is around 100 mg per kilogram. A linear calibration curve of hydrogen has been made from the circular sample, containing various concentrations of hydrogen. This recent technique can be employed to analysis of hydrogen in metal sample, which is very important. That is my present. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you very much, Ibu Dwi Endah, for the presentations. Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have time for the Q&A sessions. You can write your question in the chat box if you have any question for Ibu Dwi Endah and still continue in this room. Before we end this session, I would like to ask you open your camera so we can take the picture together. Okay. Ibu Isna, Bapak Dian, Ibu Endah Srihartati. Okay. Ibu Endah Srihartati, Ibu Alivia. Are you there? Okay. Yeah, okay, no problem. So, the host, could you please help us to take the picture? Okay. Yeah, okay. Ada aba-aba nggak? Okay. I will give the instructions. 1, 2, 3. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you very much for joining us in this session, and you could also join in other rooms after the sessions, and we will still have a lot of presentation that maybe fit with your topic. Thank you very much and see you soon. Okay.
Thank you, Bu
Okay,
Novi.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
very
semuanya.
much. See you again.
Terima kasih, Bu.
Sama-sama. Saya lift
Mari.
dulu ya, harus pindah ke room sebelah.
Oke.
Ya, Bu.
Thank
Terima
you.
kasih. Terima kasih semua.
Ya,
Sehat-sehat.
sampai ketemu lagi.
Amin. Ya.
Salam sehat semuanya. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam
Salam
warahmatullahi
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.